Imagine paying $1 billion for a tech startup that only generates maybe 10 million a year in actual revenue.
Right. On paper, it just looks like financial suicide.
Exactly. To any traditional analyst, you look at the balance sheet and just wonder why a massive conglomerate would overpay so drastically for, I don't know, a handful of patents and a small engineering team.
Yeah, it makes no sense under the old rules.
But what if the acquiring company isn't actually buying the startup's product at all?
Oh, that's the real question.
Right. What if they are paying that $1 billion to buy a secret invisible bridge directly into the research labs of their biggest competitors?
Which is wild to think about.
It really is. Welcome to today's deep dive. For you, the learner, our mission today is to completely dismantle and basically rebuild the way you think about value creation. And we're using a really groundbreaking 2026 research article from the Academy of Management Journal by Jens Christian Friedman and Korkan Kabusan.
Yeah, and to set the baseline here, the traditional business strategy paradigm we've all been taught relies on a very simple framework, right? Build, borrow, or buy.
Right, the classic three.
Exactly. If a company wants a new capability, they either build it internally, they borrow it by forming a temporary strategic alliance, or they just buy it outright by acquiring another firm.
Straightforward enough.
But this research introduces a fourth mechanism that fundamentally changes the landscape. They call it bridging.
Bridging. I love that term.
Yeah, the core argument is that competitive advantage is no longer determined simply by the physical assets you own or the IP you control.
Okay.
It is determined by the external ecosystems you can access through inherited relationships.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the concept of inheriting an invisible bridge sounds brilliant in a theoretical boardroom discussion.
Oh, for sure.
But operationally, I really want to understand how this actually functions on the ground. We typically assume that when you hire someone or acquire a firm, you are engaged in a transaction for their existing internalized knowledge.
Right. You're buying what they already know.
Yeah, you get what is in their heads at that exact moment.
Well, the study reveals that the true strategic prize actually lies in the target company's past.
Wait, their past?
Yeah. When a firm acquires a target, it doesn't just absorb the target's current capabilities. It gains a functional knowledge pathway to the target's former alliance partners.
Oh, wow.
The critical mechanism making this possible is something the researchers term relational assets.
Relational assets. Okay.
Right, because when two companies collaborate deeply over time, they don't just exchange files or emails.
No, they actually have to work together.
Exactly. They develop shared routines, unwritten communication protocols, and a deep familiarity with how the other partner structures and applies knowledge. The academic term for this is partner-specific absorptive capacity.
Partner-specific absorptive capacity. So it is essentially like learning a highly specific dialect that you can only speak with one other person.
That's a great way to put it, yeah.
And those relational assets don't just evaporate the moment the official partnership contract expires.
No, not at all. They become a durable, latent foundation for continued informal knowledge access. Long after the formal alliance ends, the engineers or researchers still know exactly who to call at the former partner's firm to bounce an idea around.
Right, they have that trust.
Exactly. They still understand the specific, undocumented quirks of how that partner approaches problem solving.
It is remarkably similar to the dynamics of marrying into a family.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Yeah, like you get married and the direct relationship is obviously with your spouse.
Right.
But through them, you suddenly gain access to their brilliant software engineer cousin who can fix your computer, or their chef sibling who can cater your events.
Yep, you get the whole package.
And you didn't spend decades building a relationship with the cousin or the sibling. You didn't establish that trust yourself.
No, you didn't have to.
But because your spouse already has those deeply ingrained shared routines and, relational assets with their family members, you inherit the benefits of that entire network.
Exactly. You are leveraging pathways of trust that were built by someone else entirely.
That is so powerful.
It is. And to prove this actually happens systematically in the corporate world, the researchers didn't just guess. They analyzed a massive data set of 271 acquisitions.
271. That's a lot of data.
It's a huge sample. And they tracked knowledge flows using a highly specific methodology, patent citations.
Okay, patent citations.
Yeah, by examining the patents filed by the acquiring company after the acquisition, They could actually trace the origin of the underlying ideas.
I mean, I understand the theory, but relying on patent citations seems incredibly tricky. Well, how do you differentiate between an acquiring company genuinely using this bridge versus them simply citing an industry leader who just happens to be a former partner of the target?
Ah, that's the genius of it. The researchers controlled for that by comparing the citation rates to similar, comparable firms in the industry that did not have those prior alliance connections.
Oh,
And the data showed a massive, statistically significant spike. Acquirers are vastly more likely to build on the knowledge of a target's prior alliance partners.
wow.
And here's the kicker. They aren't just absorbing the old knowledge that the target company already possessed.
What are they getting then?
The acquirer uses the bridge to tap into new-to-firm knowledge, stuff the alliance partner created long after their formal relationship with the target had ended.
That completely changes the calculus of an acquisition.
It really does.
You are essentially buying a live feed into another company's ongoing R&D.
Live feed, yeah.
But there has to be immense friction here. I mean, Wall Street demands immediate synergies after a buyout.
Oh, absolutely. The pressure is huge.
The standard playbook is to buy a company, gut the redundant departments, merge the IT systems, and just force everyone onto the parent company's reporting structure.
Right, that's what we see all the time.
Mm.
But what's fascinating here is that the data proves this standard M&A playbook is often a destructive force.
Really?
Yeah, the deeply ingrained instinct to aggressively integrate an acquired company is the exact mechanism that destroys the invisible bridge.
Oh, because it disrupts everything.
Exactly. Excessive integration wipes out the relational assets. When you restructure a target company's teams, change their communication tools, or alter their strategic focus,
You sever the informal ties.
you sever the informal ties and the shared routines they had with their external network.
It's like if you buy a house with incredible vintage architecture, you don't immediately go in with a sledgehammer to make it look identical to your current modern apartment.
Oh, that would be terrible.
You destroy the very value you just purchased.
Exactly. Leaving the acquired company alone, preserving their autonomy, is not a failure of management or like a lack of operational discipline.
Right.
It is a highly deliberate strategic choice designed to keep those knowledge pathways open.
Okay, that makes sense.
The relational assets are embedded in the people and their specific ways of interacting. If you force them into a rigid new corporate mold, you take scissors to the invisible cords, connecting them to their ecosystem.
Okay, but this raises a really important question about the former partners themselves.
Okay, go on.
Because they aren't passive participants in this.
Right.
Like if I run a specialized tech firm and I used to collaborate closely with a small startup, I might be perfectly happy sharing informal advice with them.
Sure.
But if my biggest, most aggressive competitor suddenly acquires that startup,
Oh, yeah?
my willingness to share knowledge is going to plummet to absolute zero.
And you'd be smart to do that. The study heavily accounts for this contingency, labeling it the problem of competitive overlap.
Competitive overlap.
Yeah. If the acquiring firm is a direct rival to the target's old partner, the former partner will immediately recognize the threat.
Naturally.
They'll pull up the drawbridge, the informal chats stop, the collaborative problem-solving ends. They actively restrict knowledge flows to prevent their rival from leveraging the relational assets.
So the acquiring firm really has to carefully calculate not just how to manage the internal integration, but how the broader external ecosystem will react to their new ownership.
Exactly. It's a very delicate dance.
Let's ground this theory in reality, because navigating that delicate balance of autonomy and competition must look entirely different depending on the specific mechanics of an industry.
Oh, completely different.
Like, a software buyout doesn't function the same way as a hotel acquisition. How does this bridging actually manifest on the ground?
We can see the clearest contrast by looking at two highly distinct environments: the hospitality sector versus the heavily regulated world of banking and finance.
Okay, let's start with hospitality.
In hospitality and tourism, the knowledge being bridged is primarily tacit and deeply localized.
Right, it's about the local flavor.
Exactly. A massive global hotel chain doesn't acquire a boutique hotel in a culturally rich neighborhood just for the real estate.
No, they want the vibe.
They are buying the boutique hotel's deeply embedded informal ties to the local community.
They want the boutique's relationship with the specialized local tour guides, the underground culinary scene, the regional experience providers.
Yes.
And those are relationships built on handshakes and local reputation, not formal contracts.
And that knowledge is incredibly fragile.
I bet.
If the global chain acquires the boutique, and immediately forces them to abandon their local vendors to use the corporate standardized procurement software.
Oh, they crush the localized network.
Completely. The value of the boutique hotel instantly evaporates because the relational assets were tied to the autonomy of the local managers.
Wow. Okay, now contrast that fragile informal network with the banking sector.
Right. It's a completely different world.
Because traditional legacy banks are constantly acquiring sleek fintech startups.
All the time.
But you can't just have informal handshake-based data sharing when you are dealing with federal financial regulations and consumer privacy laws.
No, definitely not. In finance, the knowledge bridges are highly structured and strictly governed.
Right.
Legacy banks acquire fintech startups to gain indirect access to open banking ecosystems, specialized developer communities, and alternative data sharing consortia.
Okay.
However, the regulatory environment acts as a series of massive toll booths on these bridges.
Toll booths. That's a great visual.
Yeah, the knowledge flows are bottlenecked by strict compliance issues, risk models, and privacy firewalls. The bank gets the bridge, but extracting the knowledge requires navigating a maze of legal and technical constraints that simply don't exist in the hospitality sector.
Okay, what about a field like healthcare, where the knowledge is highly technical but also deeply collaborative?
Oh, healthcare is fascinating.
We see massive pharmaceutical conglomerates buying small biotech firms constantly.
Healthcare acquisitions are perhaps the purest example of bridging for new-to-firm knowledge.
Really?
Yeah. When a pharma giant buys a small biotech company, they are rarely just buying the biotech's current portfolio of drug candidates.
What are they buying?
They are buying the biotech's established relationships with cutting-edge university research labs and specialized clinical trial networks.
And the mechanism of transfer there isn't just reading the university's published papers. I mean, the pharma company could do that themselves.
Exactly. They need the biotech firm because the biotech researchers possess the partner-specific absorptive capacity.
Right, the dialect we talked about.
Yes. They know the unwritten, undocumented trial and error processes of the university lab. They know which specific researcher at the university to call to interpret a confusing data set.
Wow.
They understand the intuitive leaps the lab makes before those leaps are ever formalized into a patent.
And the pharma company acquires the biotech to translate that raw, informal academic brilliance into commercial scale.
Precisely.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Looking at hospitality, finance, and healthcare, we are witnessing a fundamental shift in the core question executives are asking during an acquisition.
Absolutely.
They are no longer looking at a prospectus and asking, what physical assets or patents are we buying?
No.
They are asking, what external networks are we gaining access to?
Yes.
It perfectly explains those baffling tech acquisitions where a giant platform pays billions for a niche marketplace that operates at a loss.
Right. You see those headlines and think, why?
Exactly. They are buying the niche marketplace's carefully curated network of third-party sellers and the advanced, highly specific data analytics algorithms that govern those relationships.
They are paying a premium to absorb a strategically positioned node within a larger ecosystem.
Okay, but if acquiring a company gives you access to its network, the underlying logic dictates that the reverse is also a profound vulnerability.
Right, it's a massive vulnerability.
Like, if I am the partner on the other it's suddenly exposed to whoever has the capital to buy my collaborators.
Exactly. The researchers identify this as a hidden, systemic strategic risk. They call it the Trojan horse effect of knowledge leakage.
The Trojan horse effect. That sounds ominous.
It is. Traditionally, business literature views strategic alliances as purely positive vehicles for learning, innovation, and sharing resources.
Right. Everybody wins.
But every time you establish a deep collaboration, you are simultaneously creating a long-term exposure pathway.
Because to make the alliance work, you have to build that partner-specific absorptive capacity.
Yeah.
You have to open up your internal processes, share your proprietary data, and integrate your routines with theirs.
Exactly. You build trust and transparency to innovate together today.
Yeah.
But if that highly trusted partner gets acquired by your most aggressive rival tomorrow,
Oh, man.
your rival essentially purchased a direct, latent pathway into your brain trust. They inherit the shared routines and the deep understanding of your operational methodologies that you freely gave to your former partner.
That is terrifying. That completely changes the risk calculus for a founder or an entrepreneur.
It really does.
Because a startup cannot exist in a vacuum. You have to collaborate to survive and scale. But this implies that every single collaboration is a potential future leak to a competitor.
It is.
How does a company even defend against a Trojan horse that they helped build?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it forces a radical rethinking of due diligence and how collaboration agreements are structured.
Okay, so what do they do?
Relying on a standard non-disclosure agreement is fundamentally insufficient now. Firms must deliberately design intellectual property protections that compartmentalize their knowledge.
Keep things separated.
Right. They have to balance the necessity of open, collaborative learning in specific project areas with rigid defensive boundaries around their core defining IP.
That sounds really difficult to manage.
It's a huge challenge. They have to constantly evaluate partnerships by asking, if this firm is acquired by our primary competitor in 3 years, what exact operational vulnerabilities are we exposing right now?
But on the flip side, doesn't this entirely change how an entrepreneur should value their own company when seeking an acquisition?
Oh, it flips the valuation metric on its head.
How so?
For entrepreneurs, the study emphasizes that building deep, high-quality partnerships, prioritizing relational depth over relational breadth, makes a startup vastly more valuable to an acquirer seeking ecosystem access.
That makes total sense. A startup that boasts 3 incredibly deep, knowledge-intensive, highly integrated partnerships with top-tier university labs or specialized data providers, that is a highly prized asset.
Yes.
Because those deep partnerships are built on the shared routines and unwritten protocols that actually form a functional, durable bridge.
Right.
Whereas a startup with 50 superficial transactional partnerships just has a stack of paper contracts that offer no real informal knowledge access to an acquirer.
Exactly. Acquirers are actively hunting for, and will pay a massive premium for, the most deeply connected nodes in an industry's network.
So, what does this all mean for you, the learner, listening right now? We've explored the macro-level corporate strategies, the M&A dynamics, and the valuation startups. But unless you are orchestrating a billion-dollar pharmaceutical buyout this afternoon,
Probably not.
probably not. How does the mechanics of knowledge bridging apply to a single human being navigating a career?
The brilliant aspect of this research is how seamlessly it scales down to the micro level.
Really?
Yeah. Just as massive corporations inherit bridges through acquisitions, individual professionals build and carry these bridges through their own career mobility.
Oh, I see.
The researchers define this individual capability as relational intelligence.
Relational intelligence.
Right. Every time you transition to a new job or even just rotate onto a different cross-functional project team within your current organization, you aren't merely collecting a new bullet point for your resume or, learning a new software tool.
Right.
You are gaining deeply ingrained insights into how different environments operate.
You absorb their specific organizational culture, their informal power dynamics, and how they uniquely structure and share knowledge.
Exactly. You learn the undocumented processes of how the engineering team negotiates with the design team, for example.
Yeah.
And crucially, when you move on to your next role, you retain those latent pathways. You act as a human bridge.
Wow.
Because you intimately understand the specific language and shared routines of multiple different professional environments, you develop the rare ability to connect ideas and synthesize solutions that others simply cannot see.
The text actually draws a fascinating parallel to celebrities and public figures that makes this concept incredibly tangible.
Oh yeah, the celebrity parallel is great.
We constantly see certain actors, musicians, or directors who manage to constantly reinvent themselves and stay relevant across multiple decades and shifting cultural trends.
Right, they just keep coming back.
An actor who consistently works with the most avant-garde, boundary-pushing directors isn't just relying on their own isolated talent.
No, they are actively leveraging the shared creative routines and the deep trust established during those past collaborations.
When that actor spends months on a set with a visionary director, they absorb that director's unique creative process. They internalize that specific method of problem solving. Then, years later, on an entirely different project with a new studio, they use that latent pathway to unlock a performance or suggest a creative direction they never could have conceptualized on their own.
Exactly.
They bring the ghost of that visionary director's process into their new environment. They are bridging creative ecosystems.
That's a beautiful way to phrase it.
But applying this to the average professional introduces a massive point of friction.
Oh.
If our competitive advantage in the modern job market is directly tied to our past connections and our ability to act as a human bridge, that sounds like a mandate to constantly be networking. And for the introverted learners listening who dread the idea of attending industry mixers or optimizing their LinkedIn connections, this sounds exhausting. Do I have to go to every happy hour now?
Well, the research provides a very strong data-backed reassurance against that exact fear.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yeah. The study explicitly emphasizes relational depth over relational breadth.
Depth over breadth.
Yes. Building a functional bridge is not about handing out 1,000 business cards at a conference or accumulating thousands of superficial connections on a social platform.
Because handing someone a business card over a 5-minute coffee chat does absolutely nothing to build partner-specific absorptive capacity.
Definitely.
There are no shared routines.
None. Durable, valuable bridges are forged exclusively through deep, meaningful, knowledge-intensive collaboration.
Okay.
Working in the trenches on a highly complex, difficult project with 3 brilliant colleagues creates a vastly stronger and more valuable relational asset than having superficial conversations with 50 executives.
That makes a lot of sense.
It is the friction of struggling through a problem together that creates the durable trust and the shared language. You don't need to be the loudest person in the room who knows everyone.
Right.
You simply need to have collaborated deeply with a few key individuals who reside in different knowledge ecosystems.
That is the ultimate takeaway for you today. Whether you are a Fortune 500 CEO orchestrating an acquisition, a founder structuring your startup's alliances, or an individual professional looking to elevate your career, the nature of value has fundamentally shifted.
It really has.
Success is no longer isolated to what you inherently know or the assets you directly own. It is defined by your network position. It is about your strategic ability to identify, fiercely protect, and ultimately leverage the invisible bridges connecting you to what others know.
And we've spent our time analyzing the immense hidden value of the relational assets you acquire and build throughout your career. But consider the inevitable future implications of this data. If invisible knowledge bridges and network depth are truly the most accurate determining factors of an entity's potential for innovation and success,
Yeah.
how long will it be until relationship audits or a formalized relational credit score becomes a standard, quantifiable metric?
A relational credit score.
Right. Not just during the due diligence of a corporate merger, but as a mandatory evaluation when you apply for your next major leadership role.
Imagine sitting in an interview, handing over a flawless resume, and the hiring manager says, "Your technical skills are perfect, but your relational depth score indicates you don't bridge enough diverse knowledge ecosystems."
It could happen.
That is a profound paradigm shift to prepare for. Thank you for taking this deep dive with us today. Look closely at your own career history this week. Analyze your deepest past collaborations and ask yourself, what invisible bridges are you already standing on? We'll see you next time.